Hello, welcome to today's edition of the Academy. Again, this is one of my favorite parts, going through Liddell Hart's book on strategy. Today we're going to look at the third maxim. Okay. Now again, before we get started, I want to definitely thank you for subscribing and commenting below if you have on my previous videos anywhere on my channel. I really appreciate that. Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe, share this if you will, and like. Now also there's a bell notification, little bell icon down there. If you want to be notified when the next video I put out comes out, please go ahead and click that notification bell. So let's get on to the third maxim by Liddell Hart here. Okay. All right. Number 3. Choose the line or course of least expectation. Nice and simple, straightforward. All right. So he goes on with a second sentence. There's only 2 sentences in this point. Try to put yourself in your enemy's shoes and think what course is the least probable he'll foresee or forestall. Now this one is really interesting. Even though it's really short, there's a lot to it, especially in perspectives. Remember, what he's talking about is do what's least expected. Okay. Now, we can couple this with deception, to make the opponent you're going to think about doing one thing when you're really going to do something else. But he really wants you to put yourself in the enemy's shoes first. That may sound familiar if you've been around the academy for long. And I'm sure you'll hear something like it in the future as we cover other writers. But what would the opponent expect you to do, given the army you have and the army that he has? Honestly, that's not something that's easy for us always to do, because we usually end up thinking like ourselves with the enemy's army. But that's not what we need to understand, try to understand, what is our opponent thinking? So hopefully we've had time to watch them or even played them before to understand kind of how they think. And in war, when you're going up against an opponent, opposing generals, you'll usually know about who this opponent leader is, because word will have gotten to you. There'll be debriefings or briefings about the way they fight, the way they do things. They may even have written something. Okay, so you have a lot of ways to get information about how they think. So put yourself in their shoes. Look at what would you think they would do when they see your army coming, knowing what objectives, or maybe they don't know objectives you've got. Again, there's game systems or even scenarios where objectives are secret. What would they expect you to do? Don't do that. Okay, that's what he's saying. This is actually something that there is no way that you can apply any one thing, one method, one approach, one attack, one pattern that you say, never do this because the opponent's always going to expect it. It's completely not applicable here. In fact, it's extremely important to understand what your opponent expects, okay? Because you want to do what's not expected. Let me give you an example that's almost a contradiction, and we'll pick this one up later, I think, too, especially when we get to the negative little maxims at the end. During the Battle of Operation Market Garden, there was some interesting interaction between the opposing armies. Now, around the second bridge, was that Remagen? I forget which bridge that was. I want to say Remagen Bridge. Anyway, it was the middle bridge. 82nd Airborne was in position. Unfortunately, they did not secure the bridge like they were supposed to. They decided instead to take some hill nearby and supposedly prevent a counterattack that really never materialized from enemy units. So the Germans were able to take the position. Now, the bridge, I mean. Now, what happened though is, this fight was going on for days where the Germans were trying to break through and push the Americans out. Well, it was very interesting because this tank group came in from the, I would call it southeast, toward the bridge. Again, the U.S. didn't have it yet, but they had the approaches. And they were beaten back. Well, the next day, the Americans were completely surprised by the same group attacking the same spot. And they were a little closer to success this time because, again, who would have ever expected anyone to attack on the same line of advance that just failed the day previous? So that's one of the situations where you can't always say that something's always a bad idea. It has to be looked at in the terms of what would the opponent expect. Okay, so if an attack fails, don't repeat it, right? Well, you should if the opponent, it's the last thing they expect. If they think that you're going to, if they realize you're most likely going to attack some other place, they'll redirect their troops there, leaving that place you just attacked weakened, and you'll be able to come in, hopefully. Of course, that may not happen. The opponent may be a little more leery. So only do something if your opponent doesn't really expect it. Now, this can apply in a couple different ways. Think about, or it's not a couple different ways, a couple different levels. Remember that everybody's in a game is going to expect you to attack, duh, right? But using deception, you can kind of do exactly what they expect initially to lull them into that false sense of, oh, I know what's going on, I've got it under control, and then do the unexpected, okay? Now, the term is generally referred to as a feint. Now, the feint, you need to understand, is it's not really a fake attack, okay? It's a real attack. It does damage, it threatens the opponent, but it's not your main thrust. It's not how you would expect to achieve the objective. Now, it may develop into an opportunity to do that, but that's not where you're really focusing your strength and energy to expect a favorable outcome. The main attack, which could be from whatever direction or whatever units, who knows, whatever's unexpected to the enemy, right? That comes in, and that's where your major effort is. Hopefully that feint, that initial feint, is going to be done in such a way that you'll actually pull the opponent out of position so that your actual attack, the unexpected one, comes at an angle or direction against which the opponent has much less ability to interact. Maybe they're out of position so they can't move back into a firing lane. They may have given up a zone of control, and now you have freedom of movement through a spot that you previously would have been hit by some heavy fire. Okay, there's all kinds of things like that can happen because you started with an initial attack that was expected, but your main attack was the unexpected one. In history, go back to an unexpected, which was again preluded by almost an expected. The Persians and the Greeks at Marathon. Now again, whether this was planned or an opportunity that just presented itself for the Greeks, either way, their front, their center, began to retreat and fall back. They didn't rout, they just were falling back, they were being pushed back, which, of course, the Persians, being, I don't want to say this wrong, but, being arrogant, they were expecting to be able to walk over the Greeks. They, of course, pursued them in. Well, they weren't thinking that the whole Greek line isn't falling back, just the center, and they didn't expect the Greeks to use their wings that were still holding to actually envelop them. That's happened actually a few different cases throughout history. It's not just Marathon, there's a few others. And it's like the unexpected is what won the battle. Okay? Don't do what's Alexander, for example. When you have the enemy line was set up, I forget the name of the battle. Man, I can see it on a map. I'm having trouble coming up with the name. I'll put it in the caption below. But it's really cool because what he did is he laid out his army with his strong side kind of reversed from where it should be. There was a way to do things right back then. Well, he did it unexpectedly. And then in the battle, he decided to really go unorthodox and took him and his companion cavalry and charged straight for the center of the opponent army to break through into the back line and reach the Persian king. Completely unexpected. That's not how war is fought. You got these two lines would have come close together and fought it out, and who knows what happened. But no, you had Alexander with his elite cavalry, elite for the time, charging right into the heart of the enemy lines in the center, which was usually made up of the weaker units, the lower morale, less experienced, and broke through and actually threatened the king, causing him to flee. Now, that is a classic way of doing it. So, again, using some cold, calculating figuring in this, look at what your opponent is expecting you to do, and think about what they wouldn't expect. That's going to take some creativity. And again, it's harder to do if you're always using the same list, army list, game after game after game. Because if you don't vary it up a lot, you don't see a lot of different opportunities. You don't see things playing out differently. You just get used to using your army one way. Try different things. It's just a little bit of advice, my opinion, strictly my opinion. But give yourself the opportunity to practice with different units, because you may find that some of these units can do the unexpected. I mean, other people may realize that it can be done, but who would really think that someone would do this kind of thing, right? There's a lot out there that can be like that. So, I encourage you to take a look at your own armies, your own way of playing, and see if you can find out how your opponent sees your army, and where is it that they don't expect you to come from. Where are they going to have trouble forestalling you? So, all right, so that's the third maxim from Liddell Hart. Hope you learned something from this video. If you have, please let me know below, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. All right, bye-bye.